Congregation family, I've got good news for you. God is shifting things. That's how it works. God's favor is on a person, it's on a path, but it's also on your efforts. And God will shift many times the favor path. So we are shifting because shift happens. As a congregation family, make sure and pay attention to all the beautiful and wonderful shifts. One of them is we're going to rent a new facility, get all kinds of new equipment, camera equipment to change tens of thousands of people's lives. Aren't you glad you're part of the congregation family, where we are paying attention to follow the shift? Make sure, keep on following us and watching every Sunday, every Wednesday, and watch shift happen.
Hi guys, welcome to Equip Night on Wednesday at 7 p.m. I was talking to someone just this week about Equip, and they said, I watch you on Facebook. And I go, what time do you watch? They go, 7:45. I go, well, yeah, because we show Equip. We do it live at 7, and then we replay it on social media right after. One of the benefits of watching it, though, on the site, www.Congregation.Family, is you get to chat with the pastors and around 50 other people who watch every week live. So join us every week on the website and get that extra chance to talk with everybody. So we're back. And so sometimes you got to shift things up. Sometimes you got to change it up in life. Put things in a different way. Try on new outfits. Do something different. Change your environment. And I think there's something really great about that when you do change your surroundings, because I think you can put yourself in a better situation to shift. You can put yourself in a better situation to hear what God is trying to tell you. So tonight we're doing something really, really special. I'm going to talk about a message called On the Other Side of the Shift. And my goal tonight is just to encourage you guys. It's midweek. You know, some of our weeks are crazy. Many of us have jobs where we work super hard. Every person I know in the church is a worker. Many of you guys have your own businesses, or some of you are coaches. Some of you work for great companies. Some of you are stay-at-home moms. You're raising families. You're juggling work and kids and everything else. And I think it's such an important thing and a great time to just take 30 minutes on a Wednesday night and just settle down and just take a moment to hear from God and be encouraged. And so that's what we're going to do today. So I decided to choose a verse from Joshua. So if you do have your Bibles with you, like me, I'm using my mom's Bible today. Let's get into the book of Joshua, Joshua 1. For those of you who are watching on the website, just check out the Bible feature right in the chat window and join us. So I want to read this for you today. And so this is Joshua. And Joshua at this point just took command of Israel after the death of Moses. And he doesn't really know what to do. He's in a new season, and everything around him has shifted, because for most of his life, he had Moses, this man of God who had heard from God, who was his protector, his leader, and now that man is gone. And Israel is in a tough situation. But if they are victorious in this season, they're going to reach the promised land. But the thing about it is that Joshua's never done this before. He's never had to take on this kind of shift before. And he's in a new place. And so he has a conversation with God that I think is just going to really encourage you tonight. So verse 1, after the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord said to Joshua, son of Nun, Moses' aide, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now then, you and all these people get ready to cross the Jordan River into the land I am about to give to them, to the Israelites. I will give you every place where you sit your feet, as I promised Moses. Your territory will extend from the desert and from Lebanon to the great river, the Euphrates, all the Hittite country, and to the great sea on the west. No one will be able to stand up against you all the days of your life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will never leave you or forsake you. Thank God we have a God who never leaves us and never forsakes us. But be strong and courageous, because you you, will lead these people to inherit the land I swore to your forefathers to give them. Be strong and very courageous. Be careful to obey all the laws of my servant Moses gave you. Do not turn from it to the right or to the left. Then you may be successful wherever you go. Man, what an incredible verse. And so there's a couple things I want to just focus on tonight. The first is that Joshua was an unproven leader. He was in a situation where he had one of the biggest obstacles. It was the single biggest obstacle he had ever dealt with in his whole life. And many of us can relate to that. Some of us have started new businesses. Some of us have taken new jobs. Some of us are having to teach our kids, and they're being homeschooled right now. And so sometimes in life, God and life puts you in a position where you're having to do something you've never done before. And you might feel a little unproven. You might feel a little unable to get over or handle the obstacle in front of you. The second thing about this story that you see that Joshua was dealing with is that Joshua was uncertain. He has to learn these new skills. He's never led before. He was always a servant. He was always a number two guy. Being a number two guy is different than being from a number one guy. What makes someone a great number two is not the same skills that make a great number one. And so Joshua had to learn new skills. He had to take what he had learned, but now he's in a new position. Now Joshua is going to have a number two guy, and he's going to have to take on a completely different set of responsibilities if he's going to be successful in this new season, if he's going to make this shift happen. And so many of us can relate to that process of sometimes having to learn new things in order to be successful. I remember when I was a kid and I was in NJB, National Junior Basketball. And for most of my career, I was a shooting guard. And I remember one of our point guards got injured. And it was in the middle of a game. And because it's NJB and it's not like overly serious, two of our other teammates had not shown up because there was like a school event or something. I forget the exact reason. And so coach put me in that slot, and I did not know how to be a good point guard. And so I remember when I was on the court, I had to learn how to be a point guard. I kept thinking like a shooting guard. But now I was in a different position. I had to change the way I saw the game. And I remember I kept looking at my coach, and he was, every time I'd be pulled off the court, he would just give me a small piece of advice. And I was learning on the fly. And sometimes in life, we have to learn on the fly. The shift happens, things change, and we're trying to learn new skills and develop a new set of tools so that we can meet the demand that's in front of us. The third thing that Joshua has to wrestle with is that a battle is required. You know, sometimes in life we deal with things and a battle is required. It comes with the territory, so to speak, which is kind of a wild thing because I feel like we live in a culture where we're always trying to get out of the battle, right? You talk to young people and you get this sense that they want to be successful super fast, right? Or you talk to old people and older folks, and maybe they've been successful at one thing, but now they have to do something completely different. So they're kind of expecting that they're going to be just as good on this other thing. And that's not entirely true. I think in life, many times, if you want to improve in an area or if you take something on, a battle is required. You have to grow in the process of it. One of the best pieces of advice I ever got when I was in my early 20s was from a therapist, and I was fighting with my first girlfriend I'd ever had, and we weren't working. And I remember I asked my therapist, what should I do? And he gave me great advice. He said, fight often and fight hard. And I was like, why would you give me that advice? Therapist, I'm supposed to come here and you're supposed to give me a breathing technique and I'm supposed to feel better about myself. But you're telling me to fight with my girlfriend? What the heck? I'm missing the point here. And I remember he looked at me and said, Stefan, you have to understand something. He goes, you're young and she's young. Guess what? You're not very compatible with each other. You might like the same movies, but that doesn't mean that you know how to support her and she doesn't know how to support you. So if you want to get good at relationships, you're going to have to work out the differences. And you can't tell her what she wants to hear and just leave. You have to actually try to work it out. You got to battle it out. So take it on. Take on the challenge. Take on the battle and work it out. And if you do that over time, either you'll figure out you guys aren't right for each other, or you'll figure out what skills you're going to need to be good in relationships. And it was interesting because obviously we didn't last, because I was dating her when I was 20, and most people who date people when they're 20 don't last. But I learned so much from that relationship. And one of the things I learned was that you have to be good at being in a relationship. There are actually skills that come with being a boyfriend. There are skills that come with being a girlfriend. There are skills that come with being a friend in general. And so sometimes in life, things come with battles. But if we're willing to take on the battle and work ourselves out within the battle, what will happen is that we will become the kind of person that can inherit whatever our promised land is. And you see that in what God is trying to tell Joshua. Because Israel was a young nation at that point, and they didn't have a land. So they weren't truly like a real nation. Like, they were a people, right? And they were a tribe, and they had a bunch of folks, and they did have like a governmental structure and a leadership structure, but they had never achieved nationhood at that time. And so in order for them to become a nation, in order for them to become the people that God wanted them to be, they had to be willing to take on this battle. And if they could take it on with courage, and if they could take it on without fear, and look at the fear they had in the face, and if Joshua could find his footing and take it on, what God was telling Joshua was that if you do it, you will be victorious. You will find that you have the leadership in you. You will find that the nation of Israel is strong enough, and you will be at a place where when you inherit your land, when you become the person who you know you could be, you've earned it. And so now you're that person. So when you're in those moments of shift, there's something so central to that idea, is that walk with courage, Joshua. And God is also telling us, walk with courage in all things. Step up to the shifts. Open yourself. Be willing to adjust yourself. Be willing to learn. Be willing to change. Be willing to take on things that are unproven. Be willing to expand yourself, right? And don't just expand yourself and give out of your surplus, but there's something about giving out of sacrifice. There's something about serving out of sacrifice. There's something about saying, you know what? I feel a little stressed right now, but I'm still going to try to think of someone else. I'm still going to try to be there for someone else. I'm going to take on the battle, and I'm going to be and become more than the person I am now. And I think it takes a lot of courage. But I think that there's something that happens when you can lean into the shift. And that's directly related to, I think, the key to inheriting the life you want and getting to where the promised land is. And I think that that's exactly what God was trying to communicate to Joshua. He was trying to tell him, have courage. And if you can have courage, you're going to put yourself in a situation where God can do something amazing. You know, I'd share a story. I remember when I was done with undergrad, and I went to college at Oral Roberts University in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I remember I moved back home, and I took like a regular job. I think I took a job selling furniture, just trying to make ends meet, because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just finished school, but I couldn't decide what I wanted to do. And I remember I went to Claremont, and I walked the colleges, and I always had heard of Claremont. And I spoke to two professors while I was there, and a couple friends of mine. And I was kind of on the fence about whether I was going to go to graduate school or not. And I remember I talked to a friend of mine. I had lunch with him, and he looked at me and said, hey, you know what, man? Like, just go for it. Like, if you feel drawn in this direction and you feel like the lane is there and this is a real possibility, you should just go for it and take the shift and see what happens. And it was such a great piece of advice because I remember, of course, I had reservations. There's always reservations with a big decision like that. But I made the decision, and graduate school for me was incredible. I not only learned so much stuff, but I almost felt like it was like a moment of real healing for me just as a person. I was able to kind of open myself up in new ways and really take time that maybe I would have spent at a job, but I could spend in an academic setting, working my ideas out, working my feelings and thoughts out, and it's just expanding my capacity for what I wanted to do and what I could potentially do. And so for me, that was a profound shift. It was just a shift. I felt like the opportunity came, and sometimes in life you have to lean into the shift. And part of why I think you can lean into the shift is because God is often waiting for us on the other side of that shift. And so even when we expand and we push ourselves and we give out a sacrifice, or we have to take on things and we feel unproven, or we don't feel like we have it all together, or we don't have all the tools, the reason why God can look at us and tell us to be courageous, the reason why God could look at us and say, hey, you got it, you have it in you, is because God is waiting for you on the other side, and He will see you through. So that's my message for tonight. Just a couple quick notes. If you did not see Sunday, I'm telling you now, watch Pastor Tim's incredible message. If you're looking at me and you're like, Pastor Stefan, you're talking about shift, I don't know what shift is. Go to www.Congregation.Family/shift and check out what we're doing and what God is doing in this church and the new season that we're in. And also, if you want to give tonight as well, just to tithe and offering, there's a video that's going to play right after me from Pastor Tim. Check it out, and I will see you on Sunday morning at 10 a.m. God bless you.
Hello, it's Tim Story. I hope you enjoyed the service. If so, subscribe. If not, still subscribe. It's good.